welcome to my channel. If this is the first time you've been here, this is Di's Home and Garden. So what we do here, exactly what it says. We do things out in the garden, and in the home we may be doing crafts or we may be cooking. So today, you can see I'm in the kitchen, so we're going to be doing some cooking. It's a very simple recipe that I'm making today, and as with most of my recipes, they've been adapted to suit me and my family. So when you hear the title of what I'm cooking, the name of this recipe, please bear in mind I am not Italian and any sort of Italian recipe that I cook is varied to suit our taste, and also I vary them so that they're nice and quick. This is something that I used to make if I came home from work. I could whip this up in about 15-20 minutes and I'd have dinner on the table, and the kids loved it. I've also found recently I did have a lot of people come over and we did like a pizza pasta night, and this one was the hit of the night. Some people were referring to it as pasta Alfredo, but I've always known it as pasta carbonara. And yeah, so any of you purists out there, any Italians, please don't look at this the way I do it and say that's not how you do it. I know, but this is the way I do it. So let's have a look and we'll see what ingredients I use and how I actually make this recipe. So the ingredients we're going to be using, I have chopped up there some spring onions or shallots, depending on where you come from. They're called different things. Have some sliced mushrooms. Have some bacon, which I've chopped up. I have an egg. Some people might say, an egg, you don't put an egg in it. Well, I do, because it helps when you mix it in with the cream, it helps to thicken it a little. So that's the way I do it. And we've got our packet of pasta. You can see here that it is gluten-free. So yes, another gluten-free recipe. It doesn't have to be gluten-free, you can just use normal pasta, but you'll see that this is a gluten-free version of the recipe that I'm doing. So there you have, I've got my Parmesan cheese. I keep this in the freezer and it does keep for quite a long time, and I just get it out and use it. This is already grated. So as I said, I've got usually everything on hand to just whip this up. Stove here, I have a large, over on my stove here, I have a large pot of water which I've put on to boil. Once that's boiled, I'll put the pasta in there and cook that, and then we'll come back. So with the egg, I'll just beat that. Now, if you wanted to make a dairy-free version of this, you can get If you want to make a lactose-free version of this, you can get lactose-free cream, and you can use that. So I don't have fresh cream, but I always keep this in my pantry, and this is another good reason that I like making this recipe. Generally, I've got the spring onions, which you can see there. The spring onions, I've always got them growing. Mushrooms, I'll generally have mushrooms, but if I don't have fresh mushrooms available, I also dehydrate mushrooms, so I can reconstitute these, and I've always got them in the cupboard. So bacon, I generally have on hand. So and I do keep containers of chopped up bacon in the freezer. So when I want to put together a quick meal, if I just sort of walked in the door and said, right, I need to cook real quick, I could whip this up even if I didn't have a lot of the ingredients fresh on hand. So I could go to my pantry and I could get out my dehydrated mushrooms. I could go to the garden and pick the spring onions. Sorry, there's just a bit of something in there. I could get the frozen bacon out. I've got the long life cream that I keep in the pantry, and I've always got eggs. I'm never without eggs. So quite simple to make, and pasta. And then there's also something I didn't mention is Parmesan cheese, and I always keep Parmesan cheese on hand, so I'll just get that out ready for making this recipe. So our pasta is finished cooking, and I'm just going to drain that. So using the same pot, I haven't washed it out or anything. Again, this is another, just a time-saving tip. You don't need to use a fresh saucepan. You don't need to make extra work for yourself. I'm just putting some olive oil into the pan there. And I'm going to add all my ingredients. So I'm adding the sprig onions, the bacon, the mushrooms, give that a bit of a stir. Just need to break up some of that bacon as I've cut it. It's sort of stuck together a little bit there, so we'll make sure that we separate that. Now, if you're using bacon which has a lot of fat on it, you won't need to add oil. But I've used the bacon, it's hardly got any fat on it, so I do need to put some oil in there. And it looks like I need a little bit more oil. So there we have it. The bacon is cooked, the mushrooms are cooked through, and we're ready to go with the next step. So the next step is just adding our pasta, our drained pasta, to the pot. So I'll tip that back in, and then we add our cream and egg mixture. And we'll also sprinkle in Parmesan cheese. No real measurements for this, just whatever you want. So I'll probably put about half a cup of Parmesan cheese in there. And we just mix that through. I've still got the heat on there, so it can cook that egg and thicken that sauce. Done.